I'm Vince Bulger. I'm a Wiradjuri elder, and this area where I'm sitting today is known as the boundary of Wiradjuri. On to the north and west of here is Wiradjuri, and every tribal area is recognised by their totem. And Wiradjuri is two Gugas or Girawars, two goannas facing each other. And here to the south and east is Wongaloo. They're recognised by the bogong moth. And this is a special place where I'm sitting because this is the joining of three rivers, the Little River, Peak River and Tumut River. I was born at Yass. I'm 74 now. I was born at Yass in 1929, and we lived on a mission called Hollywood. And Hollywood was run by the Aboriginal Protection Board, and I'm one of 8. I had 3 brothers and 4 sisters. So in 1939, after 10 years with Dad, he passed away on Christmas Eve, on the 24th of December 1939. And when he died, Mum needed help at the most because she had to look after 8 of us, and she was the only sole survivor. So I had to go to work with her after school to cut wood and mow lawns, and they'd pay you 4 bob or 5 bob, which was good money then. You'd buy a loaf of bread for 4pence halfpenny, pound of sugar for 3pence, and you'd get 2 bobs worth of meat. You'd have a job to carry it home in a sugar bag. And that was 3 shillings then. And then I'd still have 20 cents left. So I'd go to the pictures on bargain night, Thursday night, which was 6pence, and on Saturday night, which was 9pence. But we found out later why Mum had to get off Hollywood Mission, and we went to a place called Oak Hill to our grandparents, which was open country. And we had to build a house because there was 8 of us. Well, 9 with Mum. So we built a house next to our uncle and auntie, Frank Bulger, young Frank Jr., and his wife Jane. But luck happened, we had a old horse and a spring cart, and we had to travel out to Coolally, which was about 10 miles. There was no kilometres then, it was in miles. And we'd cut down stringy bark poles with an axe and bring them back on the cart, throw them off and then bark them, dig a hole in the ground with a bar and shovel. And we had to cut a level place because it was on a grade where the house was built. We dug it out with mattock and a shovel, levelled it out as best we could. So we put up the framework, which was mainly wire, which was twisted, so it held the poles down tight. You'd put one pole along, and then where the other ones come in, we'd put a pole on top and then wire them together with wire so they'd hold, the wind wouldn't blow them. And then we had no tin. We had no tin for the house, so Yass being on the Hume Highway, they used to dump all the tar drums that they didn't use at the rubbish tip. And we when Mum left Hollywood, we never give our school away. We always walked back to Hollywood. So we'd see the tar drums at the tip. We used to walk past the tip. So we'd go down and get them and cut them in, open them up with an axe and a hammer, flatten them out, and they had tar all over them, so we'd burn them. We'd burn them and put them on the side of the house, and then we'd go back to the tip and get kerosene tins. And we used them as shingles on the roof. Dirt floor, big hobs for a good fire. You could lay up here on that hob or up on that hob, put the long wood in. We had a bag door, and the wind kept blowing that door open. So we cut a piece of pole, a round pole, about 3 foot long. We nailed it on the bottom of the bag. So when you'd come in the door, the weight of the pole would pull the bag back and keep the breeze out. But we were free. We lived there for, I'd say, 10 or 12 years. I started work here on the Tumut Railway in 1957, and they used to send 28 blokes up by truck to help us re-sleeper. So the situation of the station being here and the trolley shed down there about a kilometre, they pulled in there and they were waiting for the ganger. And the ganger was up here getting the train runnings, and my other two mates, Richard Penrith and Peter Paulson, they'd never put the trike on the line without they got train runnings. So they had to wait like that up to the trolley shed. In the meantime, these Cootamundra blokes pulled up, and one of the chaps said, "Where's the ganger?" They said, "He'll be coming up the line in a minute." So I didn't know. He said to Richard Penrith, "He's a black fella." He said, "Well, I'm not going to work under a nigger." So I said to him, "It's immaterial whether you work today under me or go back to Cooter. You won't be getting paid for the day." So he was here 7 weeks, and we had our Christmas break-up party at the Commercial. And in that room there was about 40 people, and he hit the table with his glass. He said, "Can I have a bit of silence for a minute?" He said, "When I first come to Tumut from Cooter, I said to Vince Bolger, I'm not going to work under a nigger." And he said, "I've been here 7 weeks working under him, and he's the best bloody boss I know I ever worked under." standing here looking east at a beacon point. A beacon point is a point you pick to let the other tribes know you are coming by smoke. A campfire with a smoke signal and bull roarers that you can swing around and send a message you are in this area. This is known as a pathway. Coming from initiation out here in the northwest, between here and Brungle, we have a mountain called Mudjang Pine Range, which is initiation place. So therefore, when they finished the initiation, they come to walk on this pathway to the mountains to meet up with the other tribes that are coming from the west. So it's only one of the pathways that they've taken because it's unoccupied, and they feel safer by walking on this path. We are looking at the markings on the stringy bark, this young stringy bark tree. The markings are done by the kangaroos. If they got seed in the fur, they will come to a tree like this and rub on it to get to form the bark into small fibres, which will relieve them of itch and irritation out of the bark. So it's only on the stringy bark trees that they rub to relieve themselves. And this tree is a sugar gum tree, which to the Aboriginals could be a supermarket because there's bush tucker here. The witcheties lay their eggs and they fall into the ground, and as the grub grows in the ground, he then becomes a bogong moth as he comes out of the ground. We can show you a shell which will prove that there are witcheties under this tree. This is a mistletoe on the round leaf gum tree, which is different to sugar gum. And the fruit of mistletoe you can heat. If you're in the bush and you want something just to stop you from being hungry, you can eat the berries off this, but it's only in the springtime that the fruit are ripe. From September to December, the fruit are on this mistletoe. This stringy bark tree, and it's very important to Aboriginal people because you can cut a shelter, a mai out of this tree. And I'll just show you how, with this stick, you cut him in this direction, down to the butt. And then you come across the butt to there, and then you join up here again just like a V, and you come this way. By doing that, you are not killing the tree, because the sap will run up that side of the cut and will run up that side up into the leaves, to feed the leaves, so that you'll never kill the tree by cutting in that direction. This is known as a scarred tree, and what we mean by scarred trees is they've taken the bark out of this tree, and it's a magnificent sample, and we call it a canoe tree because the length of the cut and the shape of the wood in the tree is the depth in the canoe. When they take the bark off, they got this depth. This is cleared land on the eastern side of Tumut. We can see Tumut in the distance here. But why they cleared this land years ago, because the population increased that quickly, they had to clear the land to grow oats, wheat, barley to feed the nation, because the population increased that much. But today we have to have a tree that we can put a roof over the population's heads to house them, and that's why we got to have a pine tree, because a pine tree is so versatile that you can put a nail in it and it won't split. And it's the same as the Murray pine years ago. They cut the pine down, and the Murray pine was a valuable material because white ants wouldn't eat it. You could build with it and put it in the ground and still the white ants wouldn't eat it. As we look up towards this timber face here, we have a lot of young sugar gums, and they are the Wiradjuri grub tree. That they live in the sugar gum. So looking at these younger ones, we'll still have Wiradjuri grubs here for years to come. This is a scarred tree that's been destroyed. It's not a canoe tree, it's been cut for coolamans, for carrying purpose. It was cut down for firewood. And people don't realise what the scars on the trees are. And therefore they don't know what they're cutting down. We bring children out to this area because it's been handed back to the elders and Aboriginal people of Tumut, but we share it with the younger generation. We bring them out here just to explain what you do in the bush and how you can get bush tucker, survive, and to be able to find your way home, because we explain the Milky Way that runs north and south, and sunrise is in our east and west. If you're facing sunrise, west is at your back, south is on your right hand, north is on your left. So we done a program on that to tell children which way to, if they get lost in the bush, which way to go. And I met a little fella down the street, and he said, I told Mum and Dad that I'll never get lost in the bush again because Mr. Bulger told me which way to walk and to look at the stars, which way the waters run. This side the Great Dividing Range, they run west. Over the Great Dividing Range, they run east into the sea. And I probably will never get lost in the bush. When they're not irrigation, store it in these earth tanks. Clay tanks, red clay. Water won't evaporate in these earth tanks. So you've already got the water stored there. You're not running it down the Tumut River, putting rocks in it, taking the fish old out. You can breed all your fish here because you've eyed this wall to hold this water. Yeah, I'm sitting here on the bank of the Tumut River, and this Tumut, the water in this at this point is very cold because it comes from the bottom of the Blowering Dam, which is the last dam on the hydroelectric scheme, and they have to let the water go from here at certain times of the year to get water down to the rice paddies and through the production area at Narandra, Leeton, Griffiths, Collyambly, Balranald. They've taken out the native vegetation here on the south side of the river, and they've put in rocks so that there's no spellholes. There's no spellholes for the fish. The water is running quicker over the gravel beaches, and there's no spellholes or no vegetation for the native fish to breed in. It's all right for trout. Once you take the willow out of the tree that grows along the river, or the river gums, well, they can't cut the natives out. They cut all the introduced species, but you've got no sandbars or spellholes for the fish to stop and to breed in. So you look after the water. It's like Mother Earth. You look after the land, and the land will look after you. But you've got to have water to grow. Everything can't grow without water. Well, we're on the foreshores of Blowering, sitting by a fire, which is very sacred to the Aboriginal people, because if you take the fire away from them, you take his spirit away. Before white settlement, there was nothing to see 700 people in one mob. So you could imagine once they camped and they lived off the land, they wouldn't stop very long in one place. They'd have to move on for food purposes. And once they left the place, they'd always burn the ground, because when they came back in 12 months' time, that area that they burnt would be green, because after burning, every seed germinates. It's the burning and the heat of the fire that makes the seed pods burst, and even the flowers and the grasses. They all come back even better after burning. So it was controlled burning. There was no big bushfires then, because people understood fire, and the place was populated. Not like today, we got vast wilderness with no people on it that can burn and know what time to burn. So that's why we're having big bushfires today, because we don't understand controlled burning. And after 30 years in the bush that hasn't been burnt, there's too much fuel on the ground. So we must have controlled burning in the future if we're going to be somewhere fireproof. In our dream time, when we have a death in the family or there's a special celebration, we light a fire and we do a smoke ceremony, which is in our spirit world. Our spirit rises with that smoke to join the Milky Way, which is the smoke of our ancestors' fires. That's the only way we can communicate with them. And when we die, we come back to Mother Earth, where we originated. It learns you one word, and that word is respect. You respect the earth you walk on, you respect the water you drink and to swim in and wash in, and you also learn to respect people around you. I had 2 heart attacks, and I had the priest walk in the hospital and read the last rites on me. So I was near death. I had to learn to walk again. I had to learn to talk properly. And after I became strong, all I was doing then, I was eating, sleeping and fishing, which is a part of my life. And I was living like a millionaire. And that's not a bad life, you know. Money don't come into it. I'd like to speak about our culture, the Aboriginal culture. It's probably one of the oldest in the world, but it's not only the Aboriginals got their culture. Every human being put on earth has got their own culture, and it should be respected for what it is. But anybody that see, it was a changing world as I was growing up. I'd speak to my elders in their language, and then I had to go to school. We had to put down our boomerangs and spears or bundis or nulla nullas, and we had to learn the English way of life. But I think it's a good thing, because when we went walkabout or we went hunting, we were in our own environment. We were only speaking to our own people. But today, after we've learnt English, we can communicate with all people. So I think it's a good thing for the future. We don't hold grudges against any nation or race of people. That's been done in the past. We never let that stand in our way of going forward and making a better world for all people. So today we are free people. You weren't free then, but once you got relocated off the missions into the general public and be able to read and write, that we can communicate with each other. And I think communication is the secret of life. And after we grew up, we went down to Sydney. I was only short, but I was solid then, and Peter was a bit bigger, and my other brothers were a bit bigger than me, and the girls were big. And Mum walked into this Aboriginal Protection Board office. She said, "I want to see the boss." So 2 or 3 blokes come up and said, "I don't want to see you, I want to see the big boss of this office." So he came out and she asked him why was she put off Hollywood Mission. Well, he said the reason why, Mrs. Bulger, he said we didn't want any conflict between unmarried mothers and single women or single men, and Mum jobbed him. She jobbed him over the counter.